Ladies and gentlemen, hopping straight into the game as we are catching up. We see our first matchup here is going to be Kiljardi on the Byzantines. A pretty scary combination, I would say. And MSN on the more standard old Chana.
Yeah, another interesting matchup, and a very interesting matchup of players as well, right? With MSN picking the China, we've seen him play this a lot. Definitely a comfort or a pick that he sees as being incredibly strong. Kiljardi on Byzantine is one he is certainly familiar as well. So coming out the gates on a pretty standard map with a pretty good, strong Civ matchup is a nice place to be. And I'll be interested to see for MSN whether he comes out the gates blazing, as I expect he will, both in this matchup and being MSN.
Being MSN, he's definitely an expert at being MSN. Oh my goodness, this man, he's a sneaky little goose who will be able to outplay most people. Now guys, finally, after Whamen has sped up and slowed down the game, we're ready to hop into our split screen. Let's take a look at these two scouts and these two players to see them shining in their glory. MSN there on the left side, running around with a ton of sheep. Kiljardi, he did drop off that first batch already, but right now he's trailing behind the young lad's scout. So he's not going to be picking up any more after that.
No, and I am. That's a fantastic photo, I think, and I think Kiljardi is not looking too impressed with him either. The young buck. To his credit, I'm sure MSN is only a young 16 or maybe even 15 in that photo. He's almost a fully grown man at 17 years old now. But no, it's looking a little bit sad for poor Kiljardi scout there. We've been following him for a while, and there's not a single sheep following him.
That's the beauty of dry raid. You just cursed it. He gets the scout. Lucky old man is going to be eating tonight. So definitely not feeling too bad. But guys, it's time for us to find out what these landmarks are. And let's go see Imperial Academy. What a surprise. MSN not rushing this up though. And of course, I like this. He's not under the rest. Kiljardi, Grand Winery. What a surprise. With also a 2 villages. Not trying to get there quickly. Pulls a few, I was about to say pulls a few more, but no, not at all. He's just going for a good old wood chopping. Not too under stress about anything here. Now, thinking about standard Byzantines builds, usually we don't see 2 on gold. We don't see 2 on stone in that split either. Kiljardi is making his own build here. And 2 on stone, it gets you your 3rd cistern eventually. It takes a little bit longer, but 2 on gold, also not necessarily what you get for your optimal upgrades. But again, aging up with 2, this man, he's focused on even numbers and not going to be deviating from any of that.
Yeah, I think from MSN at the least, we can expect to see pro scouts and probably a bit of feudal aggression to not let the Byzantine get away. That's awfully under the TC there. Oh no, he already got 3 sheep and then they're gone. I hope he got some home, Kiljardi. Can we check on that? Can we get that sheep counter back up after that? Oh no.
Poor guy.
That
Grandpa's
feels
gonna
awful.
go hungry.
Maybe we're praying for that game crash now. I'm not sure. At least Kiljardi, maybe. That really sucks. I mean, it doesn't happen that often these days. In the first couple of years of the game, we were seeing it every other game. Not so much these days, and good reactions from MSN to pick it off, but it really does suck for a Byzantine. It does mean that food is going around all the faster, and it does mean that MSN on the Chinese gets even more food, which means when you combine that with the likes of a pro scout, you just have so much eco that you can pump into that such fast production to send just waves and waves of units across the map, and it's really tough for Kiljardi to hold on with his berries both at the front and vulnerable, and then having nothing to run back to under his TC.
Now the reaction, I was about to say the quick reaction. The reaction from Kiljardi on the Byzantines going for a nice barracks against the horses makes a lot of sense. We see this again and again from people. You get that horseman or 2 and then go for your pro scouts. But this 1 horseman is going to be enough, says MSN. And scouts, they will just go and snack whatever they feel like. And the fact that they're going this way already, let me take a quick look here. If I select the scout now, we can see where he's heading, and he's heading to the opponent's deer. So already having some very optimistic choices here to go for the opposite deer instead of his own. So this is not just about him getting the food, this is about him denying the food. So going out this far to try and get a few deer is definitely saying something about his state of mind after getting that scout kill already. But state of mind might be a little bit overconfident as that horse gets impaled and needs to back off. Kiljardi, he's investing in more and more spears.
Yeah, for MSN, actually, this is quite smart after getting all the extra sheep. He knows that he's not in a rush to get the deer back home as much. So he sent a couple of those scouts across the map to get rid of Kiljardi's. I actually thought for a moment he might be going there to the closest deer back, if anything, just to lame them and spread them out. So it's something that would be denied from Kiljardi. But in the case, for the most part, Byzantine, they don't want to go on those deer anyway. They do prefer to get their berries. But in Kiljardi's case, I mean, he's got his first berries out in the front and exposed. He's got his second berries, but who cares about berries? We've got something far more interesting. Those Royal Knights.
That is such a crazy play here by Kiljardi. Finding already going out on the trade post is pretty brave. The problem is, you go out on the trade post and your opponent, he's gonna know you're on a trade post somewhere, and he's also gonna know where you aren't. So this is something that gets shut down pretty quickly. So he needs to get the value of this so fast. Villagers already moving out very conservatively at that. Getting a tower out here too. It tells you Kiljardi, he's scared of what can happen with MSN's army. And MSN's army is already looking pretty feisty with archers and horsemen in that composition. Now the horsemen are standing at the ready, looking for an opportunity to go and attack. But these French knights are going to be quite a surprise. He should be able to get at least 2 out before Mr. Kiljardi, or before Mr. MSN knows something is up.
Yeah, and he doesn't know it yet, right? So this is something where with Kiljardi, it's going to buy him a lot of time. When MSN sees these knights, he's going to be like, oh crap, I've got a bunch of horsemen and archers, and that's it. He might pick up a kill here, MSN. Oh, cancels the attack. Oh my gosh. That feels awful, but it's okay. It's okay. He is going to feel just fine coming across and denying the gold anyway. But with those knights, and obviously MSN not expecting it, as Byzantines will not typically have those royal knights coming out, it does mean that he's going to have to react with a barracks and spearmen, and it does mean that Kiljardi is going to get that little bit of extra time to get his economy going, which especially after losing the scout and the sheep early, he needs every little bit he can get. And MSN's army is already looking scary enough, but these royal knights are going to make all the difference, or they could, if Kiljardi can pull this off.
Now, it gets revealed with an engagement against the scout, which is not, I think, the engagement he wanted to reveal this in. Now, towers are getting upgraded. As we can see, Kiljardi is under a bit of siege. Now, with this gold already being shut down, this puts him in a pretty peculiar spot. He does have a safe-ish gold here to the back that he can fall back on. But by this point, you're now just trying to survive. You know your opponent has invested so much into the feudal already. You are Byzantines, you don't mind playing the feudal, but this is also a pretty scary one, because that army is massive, and for some reason they're looking at rotating. And this could just be because he saw those royal knights. He knows that this is not going to be an easy situation to fight against.
Yeah, it does change the equation for MSN a bit, knowing that the Royal Knights is going to make a straight up engagement all the more difficult, so not looking to make any type of dive right away. I'm not sure on his vision yet if he knows that the mercenary camp is at the bottom. Presumably seeing the Royal Knights, he's clocked onto that, or whether those the berry villages are out there all exposed. As a result, Kiljardi is getting a lot of extra olive oil in. Now making his 3rd round of knights has got to feel pretty good and given him a lot more control on the map and in raiding than he otherwise probably would have been looking to have traditionally as Byzantines. And it does look like now, he didn't know the trade post was there directly, but I mean, there's not really anywhere else it could be. So he is coming across now, and there is only that one tower with the arrow slits defending it, so Kiljardi does pull the villagers away.
Now we do see the knights are looking for a little bit of damage, and no damage was found. Scout does pay the price though, and the rest of these knights, they are not feeling too confident about diving in under the TC. Pretty smart move here by Kiljardi, but you have to consider those knight numbers. He's already up to 6. The problem is MSN is prepared for this. Already having 9 spears is going to mean that Kiljardi is the one who's going to need to micro this perfectly. And already trying to get a little bit of a charge here on the scout. You want to shut down this scouting. The problem is just there's 5 more scouts that you have to handle. And now the pressure is not just coming from one side, it's from multiple. MSN, he's not looking at giving Kiljardi a moment to breathe. Kiljardi, though, he knows about this. He sees the army, he sees the horsemen, towers everywhere to just ensure he's not going in blind. With the archers being moved this way, he's going to know something is up, and there's already 26 of them. Kiljardi doesn't have much against this.
Yeah, actually really fortunate for Kiljardi there that that tower vision does see the army. Does make things a bit safer for Kiljardi at home and just knows he has to defend this position. We didn't comment on it, but we did see those 2 archery rangers come up from Kiljardi before, which has seen him grow that count to 15 archers. Not something we're used to seeing for Byzantine, as they tend to go into those longbows, but obviously opting for something a bit different this game with the knights. And as a result, you've got a strong 1-1-1 comp from Kiljardi's Byzantines. And you've got the same thing from MSN. But the thing about China, as much as they've got the economy, which is fantastic, they don't have any real benefits to their troops. They're as stock standard as they can be. There's just a hell of a lot of them.
Now, Kiljardi also already thinking about his own little farms. That food transition is going to be so critical, as we remember there was a little bit of an imbalance here. So MSN's army, while being really, really scary, he needs to be careful not to overcommit, because the moment he does, this can spiral out of control so fast. The food that he's gathered feels great, but it does look like he's about to take a little bit of an engagement here. The archers getting a decent shot off, but the archers from MSN is just so much more. You see them backing off. Limitane trying to just peek, but quickly getting told why that is not a good idea. Now, getting straight under that TC, and that's where things usually spiral out of control, but the army is massive. MSN now at double. Of course, not double value, but pretty close to it.
It's a lot. I mean, it's a huge, huge advantage. And he's also leading in the economy, or particularly the food economy, which is something that Kiljardi is going to struggle with, like you said. And he's struggling even more, as we see with these olive groves being out the front, as the Grand Winery needed to be out the front, as that's where the berries were. It does make things a bit rough. And with that rough food eco, Kiljardi is still macroing to castle. But not having a lot of safe or numerous resources behind it. So it looks like maybe this is the fight for him to take to survive that, and we do see the engagement from both sides with the knights, but there are spears on both sides as well. The horsemen from MSN unable to really attack anything at this stage. They now get onto the archers, which is big, and it's MSN's huge archer ball, which is really making a difference here. Just being able to fire away at anything he can, including every single one of the Royal Knights. And, well, it basically was double the army value, and it's even worse than that now coming out of the fight. That tower is going down. These 2 extra knights just come out of the mercenary camp, but they're going straight to their graves. The archer count is next to none. The villagers are going down, and MSN has got one clear path into the rest of Kiljardi's economy.
This feels like a castle age into GG, with 5 villagers going down. It doesn't feel as bad for the Byzantines usually, but that's where the attack needs to stop. And you can see Kiljardi just thinking about getting a stable or 2 here to make a cataphract. But the question is just if cataphracts are the miracle answer that he needs. And the problem is, I don't think there's anything a cataphract can do against this huge amount of archers, because behind this, MSN is also thinking about his own castle age, so not looking to overcommit the moment this age up hits. But the scouts themselves still pro-scouting, and you can see poor little Kiljardi moving out here, thinking about getting himself a deal or 2. But these guys, they have something else in mind. We will just yoink every bit of food that you had your eyes on and quickly take them all for himself.
It's so rude. I mean, Emmett said maybe being kind, not doing it earlier in the game, but maybe even ruder doing it right in front of Kiljardi's face. And even though he doesn't bring them away, even though he doesn't bring them to his base, he brings them away from Kiljardi. And that means they're all going to be spread out and essentially useless, or at least inefficient for Kiljardi to gather. Now, MSN, he's still doing a lot of damage around this, but behind it, he's going castle. He's not taking any risks. He knows that behind this, he's in such a huge advantageous position. All he needs to do is not make any big mistakes, and he can choke out Kiljardi from this point.
And you see Kiljardi putting a few farms around, but forward farms, they just don't live the same way as backwards ones when it comes to any type of pressure. And Kiljardi, he's getting his first knight, another set of knights, sorry, those are French knights, he's getting some French knights in queue. He managed to get these for free. They are coming from the Golden Horn Tower, as he hasn't chosen a contract just yet, so the Royal Knights coming out all for free. So in the end, definitely paid off for him to get that, but he just wasn't able to find that damage. Now with that single cataphract, he's hoping for a miracle. But we see the veterancy for the archers are going to be hitting soon, and then turning around and doing damage is not going to feel as bad. I'm actually surprised MSN hasn't turned around just yet.
It is kind of wild watching a 70 population army run away from one that's less than half its size. But like I was saying, like MSN really is trying not to take any risks here. Maybe this is a little bit of an overstep though, and he could have turned this around. And now he goes with especially the archer veterancy coming in, which means the cataphract's got no chance. These archers are going down in mere seconds, and this army is going to get erased before it can potentially run home. MSN very much in the driver's seat and just looking to find that final nail in the coffin as he pushes across with fully upgraded units. Kiljardi there, like you said, really making the use of his knights, his heavy cavalry, by leaning into those from his Golden Hall Tower and using the olive oil and then adding the cataphracts as well. It's really, really strong army. He just doesn't have much of an eco to support it.
Now, that being said, let's take a quick look at the relics. Kiljardi is the only one who's made his way out to the relics already. And MSN, he doesn't have a monk out yet. This is something he's purely focused on making the units he needs. And with seven knights, or in this case lancers, they are going to be pretty hard for Kiljardi to handle. He's got the archers, he's got a handful of cataphracts, but when you have 9 lancers, you know you're feeling pretty confident about anything you're about to face. And Golden Horn Tower is not researching a thing, because of course there was no contract chosen.
It was destroyed. The mercenary house was destroyed. So it made one batch and then it's not making anything. I didn't actually know that's how the interaction worked, to be honest with you. But that's really unfortunate to not see anything come out of that. That's a wasted landmark. So Kiljardi it's just gone from bad to worse, and this is a game where as MSN pushes on the front door, he's probably going to look to forget, but he is holding in there. Garrison TC and then able to click on, at least for the most part, onto the archers to get some damage done there before he takes the ultimate fight of the game. But it is more than 3 times the army count from MSN here, and there is only that handful of cataphracts left, which is the only thing of any value for Kiljardi. Running in now, the archers are teeing off on all of the archers in the back. It is just those knights and cataphracts, but it's just an absolute swarm from MSN as he pushes through and gets every unit which is coming out, including those poor cataphracts which are coming out of the back and then running directly into spears. MSN still got the wherewithal to take those archers and click on the archers in the back. The last of the cavalry goes down. We do see Kiljardi actually pick up contract, and now we see camel riders coming out and javelins, which is something for him, but it's a military count of 56-2 at the moment, and whether he gets relics or not, this one is looking all over.
Oh, Kiljardi, he had an amazing civilization in his pocket, but there's a reason China gets banned again and again, and we see it right there with that pressure. Kiljardi has just learned a lesson in how to not survive against China, because the amount of units that MSN was able to pump out, I have no idea. I had no idea China could do that. Not to that scale.
Yeah, credit MSN for the game plan and the execution as well. I think we knew early on, I think Kiljardi was well aware that this was going to be a matter of getting pro scouts and China looking to put some pressure on in feudal. But especially with losing that scout early, losing those sheep early, and even before then, getting beat on sheep count, it just was from bad to worse from the very start of the game for Kiljardi. MSN was in a great position, and who did a great job to slowly, but very surely choke Kiljardi out and take a 1-game lead in this series.
Now, MSN, we see him coming in, taking down players at the top, and then quickly slithering away into the darkness just for a little bit. So MSN, being the young kid on the block, you still have to see that gameplay get to a point where it levels out. This is something we saw with Puppy Paw in the early stages as well. Puppy Paw, I remember when he was one of the newer players coming in, he was absolutely dominating in the one round. And then the next round, you would be like, what is this man doing? 6 months later, 1 year later, he's at the top of the top. He's one of the favorites to win some tournaments as well. Puppy Paw, I feel like this is what I see in MSN. MSN is sometimes showing up at such a high level, but he just hasn't reached that consistency just yet. But seeing this kind of performance, I am really excited to see where this kid goes. But we do have our second matchup as well on Holy Island. And guys, Twitch chat, let's just all prage that we don't get another crash on this map. But with MSN being on the French, I am very worried for Kiljardi. House of Lancaster is not what it used to be on this map.
No, it's really not what it used to be at all, is it? At least on water, I mean, as long as you can get all of your eco at home under the manor, economically, it's not awful. But I think he would have preferred to play Jushi's Legacy on this map for sure. Similarly for MSN, I mean, HRE and French are both great picks. We've seen French be a menace across the board, so maybe at least this is something for Kiljardi to be like, okay, if I get getting French away on the water map, maybe it means I'm not going to have to worry about it on another map. But this does sort of set itself up to be, at least in my opinion, MSN favored. But I'm never one to count Kiljardi out. He has beaten the best of the best numerous times. We talked about MSN's inconsistency, or maybe his building up, his ramping up. But Kiljardi is one that has always been knocking on the door. And I think he'll have a point to prove after that bit of an error in last game. And if he could do it with House of Lancaster, I think that sets him up pretty well in the rest of the series.
And let's go see how this one plays out as Kiljardi is ready to spice things up in game number 2 here against MSN. Now, we're already opening the map and seeing something a little different. Kiljardi, he's building a little different than we usually find on Holy Island. Now, House of Lancaster, they are very much known for their early game shenanigans. This is no surprise to anyone. But getting your spearman out here, you are going to need to find your value. Now, with MSN getting his deep sea fish spawned all the way here in the corner, it does mean that this is going to be a slightly easier place to wall off. And honestly, if we get a little bit of walling off action, I am ready for it. We've seen so many crazy plays on all of that. So, Kiljardi, where is that first spearman off to?
Yeah, good reaction, or a good foresight, I guess I should say, from MSN to sort of expect this to come out. And we see the wall blueprints coming up already, which is really nice. Just preemptive, it looks like there. Oh no, just need to finish the dock as well. But that's very clever, and it's the absolute furthest away point. If that scout goes, no, it's all fine, it's all fine. Oh, it is MSN scout at least. Maybe it would have been fair if he could take that down 1 for 1. But in this case, it is as far away this dock as humanly can be, and it gives them all the time in the world for MSN to build up this wall. So that's going to be something that's a little bit difficult for Kiljardi to deal with, and we'll see how much he commits to this. In this case, we see 3 spears queued up, and I'll be interested to see whether we see more than that. But for now, it's just a matter of whether Kiljardi can get anything going here.
Now, what's interesting about this, I'll show you guys with a picture-in-picture. We have a lot of villagers on food, so it feels like he's really planning to stay here for a while, but I was about to say, if he sneaks through, that was so close. But Kiljardi now, he sees, okay, I'm not going to be able to do this. MSN quickly reacting by going and getting all the gold he would need. Foregoing the idea of, hey, I need fishing boats, fishing boats, fishing boats. He knows what's going to be the next target and is already prepping for it. So MSN reading this man like a book.
Yeah, it really goes to show that he didn't actually scout it, right? It was very reactionary to seeing the first spearmen is when those gold villages went out. And we see a full commit, really, from them. The 7th spearman is being made. He hasn't sent any across to this gold, probably thinking to himself, well, I'm not going to be able to deny the age up anyway, if I really need to deny the economy. But the difficulty is here is that Kiljardi does not have his own fishing behind this. So it is going to be a matter of him needing to get the value by putting this away. And as we see all those spears come across the map, there's 8 on the field, but only 4 have actually made their way across, which goes to show just how far away this dock actually is from Kiljardi's barracks.
Now, this wall, oh, I was about to say, this is a very strange wall, but it does make its connection. And MSN is pretty stubborn about keeping this thing alive and adding another segment. But he needs to be careful with these. Very often when you try to build like that, it can easily bug out and your wall will just be in complete shambles. So probably better off trying to repair it, but he's just trying to get every bit of resource he can, with the villager on fishing as well. Of course, you are in a spot where eventually you're going to be denied off of some resources here. And with the School of Cavalry coming up with 7, he knows this is not going to be something that he has access to forever. 2 wood or left in that little inventory of his, but it is running out. The villager's time is running out as the spears have their mindset on burning through this and shutting this down completely.
Yeah, he will eventually get there. A commitment of 9 spearmen. And we see that that poor villager does finally go down. But did their job valiantly, for sure. MSN will be honoring them after this game, I am sure. But yeah, Kiljardi, I mean, is that a dock he's building up on just below this? Or is that my eyes deceiving me?
That is not your eyes deceiving you. It is real. I know it sounds traumatizing, but no, and he's going for a fishing ship pretty early on. Makes sense. He's got the wood in the bank, sir.
Yeah, he's got 9 spearmen to secure. I mean, you can secure up water in a couple of ways. You can make boats, or you can make a bunch of spearmen and stop your opponent from being able to make any docks themselves. And of course, MSN has now got the School of Cavalry up, which means he can make knights. But knights against 9 spearmen, he's going to have a bit of trouble getting any damage on that side of the map, which means he's got to go do it on the other side against Kiljardi, who is going to be able to get up his gold, but he's still got that barracks. He still can produce spearmen. He's going to be able to defend, and it's going to be a question of how MSN can turn this situation into either all-inning on land or securing his water another way.
And you see with Kiljardi pulling back some of his spears, he knows he needs to leave a specific amount here to just stop any other redocking. At the same time, there's a Royal Knight on the way, and the follow-up with the archery range already, MSN knows what the counter to spears is, and he's making it pretty fast. So with this, MSN is asking himself, okay, where can I grab back control of the game? Am I going to be okay without having the water? And honestly, I think by this point, with seeing that the double dock now, this might be a little bit greedy from Kiljardi, because with the double dock, it means you can produce from double docks. So he needs to be very, very certain to not just lose control of land completely and let that slow trickle come on in. But the archer already moving out here to try and snipe a few spears so that he can maybe think about getting control back of the water. But the dock blueprint is placed. It's just not going to be free.
No, but I think he should be able to get it up there as another archer to come across, and it doesn't really matter how many spearmen Kiljardi is going to have on that side. He is going to be able to get that back up. But then it still runs away. Still runs away. So waiting for the archers to get there. So at least getting some I guess idle time, running back time from out of MSN before those spearmen go down. So that's some value that they're able to get before departing this mortal coil. But it looks like MSN will then get or be able to get a dock up. And the question will go back to water, which we more traditionally see, with ships being the thing that either denies or not the water. And there you have it. The first one is able to successfully deny it. And that's huge for Kiljardi. That's huge, as now we see MSN's wood bank be climbing without having anything to spend it on than archers. Those fishing ships having to run for their life, and Kiljardi now being able to turn that initial aggression into being able to get that water economy.
Now, with the 2 fishing boats, they're dead in the water, not going to be doing anything crazy this game, but MSN knows, okay, I just need to win on land. Not going to be risking any other things too close to where the danger was at, but he knows that, hey, maybe Gramps doesn't have vision everywhere. And let's go see how that one will play out, as he still does not know about this, but the scout is there. He's just trying to find where any shenanigans might happen. He's just blissfully unaware of what is about to take place, and what's about to take place is just a standard old extra dock.
Yeah, at this point, MSN trying to find a way to get back that water presence. If he's not able to, I think understanding that this could really get away from him, and being able to successfully sneak and bring those 2 fishing boats home, which is fantastic work from him as well, as they would have had 2 full loads of fish in that time. Getting a second dock up now, if he can keep this hidden for long enough and be able to get enough presence to defend it against the land army of Kiljardi as well, then perhaps he could wrestle back some semblance of control. But as it stands right now, I think you'd much rather be in Kiljardi's position.
Now, MSN, he's got the sneaky situation on his side. He has the element of surprise, and this is something that Kiljardi is not going to be aware of anytime soon, as we see the scout trailing that way. But is he going to go all the way through? It does look like he's clicked all the way through, so he's going to spot this and going to be able to start answering to it. But now, as we see, the villagers, they're falling every now and again. He knows about the docks now. He knows that there's pressure, and quickly use up a ship himself.
Yeah, it's a question of whether who's going to win on water or land. Kiljardi able to push this back, and if he can successfully get a wrestle of this, he can aggress onto these 2 docks, and that could be all she wrote if he's able to get those docks of MSN reduced. But thankfully, like you mentioned, MSN has been able to get his first 2 military ships out, a galley and a hulk. And Kiljardi still, though, pumping out of his 2 on MSN side of the map. Got a pretty decent fishing eco going with 8 fishing ships, and now producing plenty of military to try to deny MSN any type of control of the water.
And having control over his gold is the critical part here, because of course they don't have the option of horsemen, they just have the option of hobelas, which cost gold. So at some point you do run into an awkward situation when the raiding gets a little bit heavy. MSN, though, he's investing more and more onto land, and it feels like he just feigned that bit of aggression on the water to get Kiljardi to invest. And Kiljardi is taking the bait. He's getting more and more ships to try and shut this down. MSN says, well, I could just continue. It's +1 ranged attack as well, and all of a sudden those archers are going to be doing a lot more. But the hobelas, it feels like they don't really have an answer in this composition that is so heavily focused on archers.
Yeah, absolutely. If the hobelas combined with the 4 Lords of Lancaster out now mean there's so much tankiness and health there on those units that can defend quite well against the French's archers. But it doesn't really have anything to go and kill those archers, as the hobelar don't do quite as well of a job of that as regular horsemen do. And we still see quite impressively MSN sort of pressure Kiljardi into that defensive position on his gold. And he's also been able to secure up that dock position for a while now. Though it is worth noting both players haven't reinvested into any more fishing ships since this was sort of established. So it is purely military now, everyone investing as much as they can to try to get control, in this case on land over Kiljardi's gold, and on the water trying to fight over MSN's docks.
And we can see with these knights trying to find their way through, we have a situation here with the boats, and there might just be a connection So we'll keep an eye on both of those, but the water fight, this is where things will spiral out of control quickly, because Kiljardi getting both docks up there on the other side, if he can get control of the rest of the water, this will become even harder to deny. But right now, those Knights, they're not too sure about what their next move is, but one of the Hobelas is their next move, and MSN, he's had to resort to some other food sources. Luckily for him, Kiljardi is purely focused on one place. The scout, though, he might switch things up a little bit.
Yeah, and credit to the players as well for finding the time to go and scout the base while trying to manage things on both the water and land, as it's been a very aggressive feudal age from both players, and the map weirdly split in such a way that makes things very precarious if you look away for a second. MSN trying to pull a demo ship in from the side. Definitely a valiant effort in this sort of disadvantaged position, but Kiljardi's demo's coming, or thinking about coming down the front, but that one doesn't quite continue its attack move. And on the other side, we've got a bit of a skirmish on the land with the Knights taking a fight into, I think, a couple of spearman hits, but now being pushed away. But that is quite a lot of army from Kiljardi. If we look at the military count, it's an incredible amount of army. And like I mentioned before, with the Lords of Lancaster, the health bars are really high for all of those units, which means being able to stand and pressure or deny a gold can go a long way towards getting that bit of idle time or economy. And economy is really the thing that MSN wishes he had, now that it looks like he has lost all of his presence on the water.
And losing presence on water just tells you, hey, now my opponent's not going to be investing there anymore, but he's not going to have that food economy either. So MSN now, he's going to get pressured on every other angle of this map. And you see that archer mass just evaporated during that fight. Hobelas now going to be fighting against the villagers, and with their lack of melee armor, this is a reasonable decision, but the Lord of Lancaster, he makes this a lot harder. Archers just doing what they can against these spears, but the Knights, they need to find a connection. The villagers in shambles right now, just running for their lives. Some will fall, but the Knights are there to support. Spearman numbers, though, still so scary as the archers just cannot keep them low. Villagers have their shivs out, trying to make this fight a little bit more plausible for MSN. But Kiljardi shows us why he chose this map. Grandpa had something up his sleeve.
MSN finally cleaning up the army, perhaps winning the battle but not the war. There were plenty of villages that went down there. I want to say maybe 8 or so he has lost, although many of those, of course, will be fishing ships. I think he had at least 4 out there, so maybe that math works out. But MSN now with very little economy, not having any fishing going for him, looking for the all-in, committing anything and everything he can towards making units. He did win that straight-up fight. Maybe he can go win another, but he's going to be severely disappointed when he gets across the map and something ticks up on his screen right about now.
After winning a fight, you might feel like, okay, great, I've killed a significant portion of the army. I can probably take this. As most of the army here from Kiljardi is all on water. So with the water army, you're not going to be able to respond to these knights. I would say so, but never mind. The ships have something else to say about that. They do respond. But, of course, there are going to be some open spots where raiding is going to be possible. But Kiljardi is getting his own knights, and these knights, they're going to take a while to get here. But MSN, he's got a very small timing, and he needs to make this work.
Yeah, I think even the timing is quite generous, isn't it? It's a bit of an uphill battle to try to push into a Lancaster, which has a white tower up and going. Coming across to scout, Kiljardi will know if he doesn't already realize that this is very much all in from MSN. He just has to hold on land, and his eco will carry him through. The knight coming in across and trying to dive in. It does get trapped. Nice little micro there from MSN to pick that off. In fact, and Kiljardi not even getting it to attack. Now it does, but not getting any value out of that one, which he needs every little bit he can. Diving in here to get some eco kills, which is another little bit going for MSN. So able to turn what looks like an absolute nothing situation into at least a little bit of value. Kiljardi's eco still ticking along though, even with that bit of idle time, and he is still making plenty of knights behind this, which is going to make it really difficult for any straight up engagement from MSN.
And MSN, he's making a lot of knights. He's able to find some pickups, but the problem is he's not able to get far enough ahead or enough kills to really make up for this fishing ship situation that is here on the water. Because with the 2 docks, he's having a pretty great economy. The thing is, if MSN can keep this up, gold is about to run out. Things are gonna spiral out of control eventually. Your French knights, they are able to keep up with the normal knights in castle most of the time. But with him having water control, he feels a little bit more comfortable going straight out on the water, gold, and making sure that he does not have this constant pressure in front of his base. The food is going to run a little bit low on the rest of the map as time progresses, so MSN can't stay in this position forever.
No, but at least for now, the eco from MSN is looking good. The income is looking good. It's just a matter of how long that is going to last before the map dries up, or at least the land of the map dries up, and he's got nothing left in the tank. The thing for Kiljardi is that his knights, well, he only has to make knights. Really, it's going to counter everything. Weaker knights on the feudal age from MSN, and of course, those archers. So it is a very simple game plan here for Kiljardi, as long as he can keep hold of the eco and not lose too many villages himself to this all-in. But otherwise, it's looking pretty good for him. And we see him come across with those knights on one side of the map, trying to get as much eco damage. And then we see, oh no, Emerson pulls off these ones, and these 3 are going to get all the freedom in the world to tee off on these villages. At least a couple go down, and we might see a couple more as well, with it only being archers so far to stop them. It is looking really rough for the young guy.
Now, Kiljardi doesn't have +2 range defense just yet, so the archers are doing okay against this. But you can see, this is just a night raid after night raid after night raid. On every single angle, Kiljardi is trying to equalize the losses that he had suffered. And another dock would not be the worst idea for Kiljardi, as he's so far ahead already, but with all the resources he's got in the bank, he's not thinking about that at all, just making sure that he gets more and more knights. Now, with these amount of knights, you start to question yourself, what is MSN going to do in the long run? Because now they're starting to equalize in numbers between French and the House of Lancaster knights, and in the end, your Castle Age knights will prevail.
Yeah, it's running out of room, running out of options for MSN a little bit here. He's doing a really good job, to his credit, to defend where these raids are coming in and to keep his knights as much on the aggression as he can, to see if he can pick up any little bit of pocket economy or economy on the map that's not sitting there safely under the white tower. But as things go on, as long as Kiljardi can maintain his position without losing a lot, he's going to be feeling a lot better than MSN is. The biggest thing for MSN now is securing up his gold, as it's all dried up. He's got 2 mining, and I don't even know where they are. Yeah, which is not exactly where he's going to want to be, looking to mass as many feudal knights as possible. That makes it literally impossible. I think he's not been producing anything for a while now, and that means that count is not just a bit even for Kiljardi, but ramping up so much more heavily in his favor. And the Lords of Lancaster, at least one of them, is coming through now. I'm surprised not to see the rest of them joining as well. Still waiting to be queued up. There we go. He's clicked the button, and now it's looking very, very difficult with MSN pulling back and looking to take one last big engagement, perhaps. Coming in, those feudal knights, especially with the charge, they do a lot of damage. But remember, these are Castle Age knights from Kiljardi. They don't have much in the way of other bonuses, but they are Castle Age, and they do have some extra health from that one Lord of Lancaster. But now Kiljardi even teeing off on the villages, and that's going to be it. He has ground them down. Kiljardi evens it up 1-1.
Now, Kiljardi coming in swinging. MSN not really expecting that cheeky play here from Kiljardi on water. And he was, with the Spearman investment, you would think that, hey, this is going to be very expensive, but it paid off so well. MSN making an amazing step towards trying to get control of it again. But Kiljardi, scouting it, he knew how to respond. There was that timing at a moment where it was about military on the water versus military on land. And for a moment, it felt like MSN had an opening, and he definitely used it. But you have to keep that pressure going. And he wasn't able to do so because, of course, the White Tower shoots rockets, and it feels impossible over time if you just keep diving into it.
Yeah, at that point it was looking like there's not too much of an option left for MSN. I think he did really well to get into the wood line and with his archers get a couple of vill kills there at the front, even with the white tower looming. And I think also right at the start, I mean, I don't think he expected quite the commitment from Kiljardi, or at least maybe not knowing quite how much he needed to react to it. But we did see him get those walls up early and build his dock at the furthest away point, expecting some of that Dark Age aggression. Just didn't quite pay off for him, and Kiljardi was able to sort of make him pay and eventually establish that water control in the feudal age. MSN tried its best to sneak something in there to not give up water too early, but it was too little. And credit to Kiljardi. He sort of ran him around that game and looking very confident, very comfortable as we tie up as we go in with a tie series into our game 3.
Now, looking at the draft here, because we didn't really get a moment to really digest it, and we still have 4 minutes on the clock before we hop on in. So I wanted to point out that we got a little bit of a different ban here. Golden Horde actually getting banned here. And I am shocked. MSN, he plays Golden Horde, right? But banning this against Kiljardi, you must either respect the man or respect the civilization. Golden Horde, it feels like a little bit of a dark horse. The one moment they're dominating, the next moment they look like they're just falling flat on their face. So finally getting a little bit of diversity here too.
Yeah, it's nice to see a little bit of difference in the bans, isn't it? We've seen Sengoku and Ottoman almost just automatics, right? They may as well put them in there before the draft even gets done. But Golden Horde being banned is an interesting one. I think we've seen a lot of the pros speak about them in their tier lists as saying they are a good civ, but they're not that great. But also at the same time, when I play it, I seem to win with it, so I don't really understand them. Which I think is kind of the feeling, the vibe of the civ. They're a very, very strange one, and maybe there's a good reason why MSN has looked to knock that one away. I'm not too familiar with Kiljardi's Golden Horde, but we've seen some players. Vortex is another one who've done fantastic job on that civ. On the flip side, Macedonian, I mean, that third slot is really what do you just not want to see, and people have been fair enough with their disdain of the Radari and the Macedonian units, and it's hard to argue with that one.
Now, seeing the Macedonians getting banned is no surprise after we've been watching these games, but getting it sniped as well, MSN respects that too. He's not looking to go up against it, but surprisingly allows Japanese to go through. Now, I can see a lot of players switching up a little bit of how Japanese is played, but we see them being strong in feudal as well. The problem is, can Golden Horde do that same level of pressure? And are we going to get, again, the Khan and the Torgoods? Because the top of the top players have been showing us a little bit more play around the building cards because of what we talked about earlier, that momentum that it gives you to actually go out and do the damage early on. You don't spend the wood, you don't have to spend your villagers' time to just chop down. You just get to make units so quickly. But at the same time, Malians, it gets sniped too. So MSN, he's gonna have to work to be able to play that civilization. And looking at the rest of his draft, I don't think he's gonna be getting Malians out anywhere else.
Yeah, it does look a little bit dicier now that you sort of come out of those first two games and see what's left. You do feel like Kiljardi's maybe got some of those powerhouses left. And I think even in this matchup, you would favor the Japanese quite heavily. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and I'm sure chat can correct me with their more expert opinions. But the Japanese are a civ that loves to go into the Dark Age. Cliffside is a map which loves to see early aggression, and the Golden Horde are one that takes a while to get going. So yeah, this might be one actually where we see building carts to sort of wrestle back some of that tempo. But I think Japan sort of have every opportunity available to them to choose however they want to. And if ultimately they do want to get up to the castle age and get onto their mounted samurai behind that Dark Age aggression, I think it's really hard to stop them with the slower pace of the Golden Horde. But if there is somebody to turn up the pace, it's our boy MSN, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can do it.
Kiljardi, he heard you here, and he was like, turn up the pace? Actually, hold the phone there, sir. I'm the one who's going to be rushing in Dark Age. And on
That
Cliffside...
gold spawn.
That's what I was about to say. The problem is Cliffside is really tiny. And when you have a forward gold like this, the gods are looking down upon you, and MSN, he is cursed.
That's just rough, isn't it? I mean, it's the first thing that comes to mind as soon as the game starts. The gold is right there, and then to top it off, the stone is pretty vulnerable as well to Kiljardi being tucked away there on the left. It's not much of a rotation for those spears to come around. So it could be possible here if Kiljardi commits to it that he could push off of gold and then also have enough time to burn down that Uvu. Which, if that does happen, is next to a worst case scenario for MSN. The good thing for him is he does recognize it early. Oh crap, my gold's in a bad spot. I'm going to go and get all of the gold I need straight away. There's no way this villager dies, does it? No, he's away and he's safe. MSN knows exactly what he's doing. And with this, he will be able to get his gold in and will be able to get his age up. But it's all a matter now, I would assume, whether that Uvu is going to last as well.
Now, this Uwu only had 1,750 health. It is going to take a while to burn down, but at the same time, with Kiljardi just investing so many spears, he is definitely going to shut this down quickly. Now, MSN, with 9 villagers on food, he'll get there. He'll get to the age up, but then you have to ask yourself, is the damage not already done enough? And I think this might be the one instance where you tell yourself, hey, even if I went for the Canondator goods, building carts might just be better for the tempo here, because for MSN, when he starts that age up, of course, it's going to take a long time no matter what. You still have to get the resources to be able to make the units. So we'll see if he's still committed to getting the Canondator goods, or if building carts is just going to give him a clearer answer. Now, it does feel a little wonky because you're paying 100 gold per set of villagers. And this does quickly stack up. We can see here the TC being idle for 10 seconds. It was 1 second until very recently, but because of that cost, you only having 2 villagers on food early on, it meant that your TC was going to go idle, at least for a little bit. Guys? Wait. Am I still here on Discord?
I still hear you. I still hear you. I'm hoping, by all accounts, this is a tech issue on your or our end and not the game. I guess we will soon find out. I'm not mentally prepared for there to be another game crash.
Don't worry, don't worry. The other game is, or the other side is still going, guys. While I load this one up, I will put, give me 1 second, a Whamen on the fly. She is going to be putting up a nice secondary... Hold on. Display, no, wait, there's a button here. And create new, ooh. This thing. Ha ha ha! Ladies and gentlemen, secondary production PC coming in hot. And this one, it will be necessary because it was going at exactly the same time. So I will get the other one up in a moment, but for now, Mr. Ben, take over and take us through.
That's amazing. I love this. I mean, when everything is going not your way, still coming in clutch and getting us the game, especially when things were getting spicy. And we do see the building carts coming in. And if there was ever a time to get it, this was that. Especially with not being able to use the Canondator goods for anything and needing all that extra wood to rebuild one Uvu, let alone make his second Uvu, and then have production to push back those spearmen. It makes all the sense in the world to get this and then hopefully be able to take some of that agency back and push on to Kiljardi's side of the map. On his side, we see whether he looks to go for any fast castle or whether there's going to be a commitment to a bit more wood. But it looks like at this stage, I think Kiljardi might be looking to just get himself up.
Now, with Kiljardi having this many villagers on that Skura storehouse, you usually get a little bit sus, but at the same time, that tower investment is telling us a very, very clear story. And it's, hey, I need this gold, and I'm not going to have this gold forever. I may have been in your base, but I know you're coming to mine, especially with him definitely going to be up against someone who has a nice little con that can just sneak in and out as needed. Now, with everything, or with all those spears, you do have a response to this type of early aggression early on, but you have to keep in mind, this does take a while for you to really get your value up. And yes, guys, you are going to hear the double game sounds as I'm trying to catch up to the live game, but at the same time, we are now going to wait and see if MSN is going to be able to sneak on out and find some damage himself.
Yeah, Nemesis really has to. There's no chance for him to try to find a similar castle timing. The Golden Horde is just too slow for that. But the good thing about the Golden Horde and MSN's position is that he does have plenty of opportunity to put some pressure on, making use of the Khan and Torgoods, which he can still get even without that age up, just a little bit more expensive, and kind of force Kiljardi to have to respect some of that pressure. And we do actually see Kiljardi. I thought it was going to be as quick of a castle as he could, but deciding that's not the way, and actually making use of that barracks to keep making units, in this case samurai, and put a few more of his villages onto wood as well. So it's not going to be perhaps the fast age up and see if MSN can all in or not. We've got a little bit more going on.
Now, with that, you have to keep in mind that this is still a nice little thing from Japan. With him having the barracks, with you rushing, it feels like you didn't invest all that much to... Ooh, hello there. Those aren't samurais, those are Onobugeishas actually, Ben. I also didn't notice, but there is a samurai in the mix. He does know the value of the armored units. Also going for a stable here. This gives him the option, because he had that barracks. And he's also hiding his strategy, making sure that he puts all the military units that are not standard spears in that TC to hide what he is cooking. MSN though, he's going for the archers, and I love this. The archers are a natural response to spears and your Onobugeishas. Kiljardi, he knows this, so opts to go for a few more samurai to make sure that this is not going to be an easy fight for anyone.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting that either. The icons have always confused me since Japan came out, and I think even that samurai that was queued up may even be cancelled, as we see it's Horseman Onobugeisha coming out here, which is an interesting choice. The speed element makes him very, very strong, and if you can overwhelm with a mass, it doesn't really matter how many archers MSN has, even if they are the natural counter. If you have so many, and if he gets caught out on the map, just the pace of those Bugeisha can chase them down. But in MSN's case, he is going to have quite a varied army with something of that 1-1-1 comp. Or I guess if you add Karash and Khan, maybe it's more diverse than a 1-1-1. But it is going to be plenty to deal with this or fight this straight up. But if Kiljardi can hide it and come out with a huge mass, it could be something that fully takes MSN by surprise and knocks them out with one fell swoop.
And we're taking a quick look at the vision here of MSN. So he's aware of the stable, he's aware of the barracks, but from his perspective, his opponent hasn't made that many units. So this might just come as one of the biggest surprises for him when those eventually do pop out. And we can see the Bugeishas standing at the ready. The Bugeishas actually going to be giving him a false sense of confidence if they're standing alone. But I'm noticing now, we're just getting more and more Bugeishas. What happened to our samurais?
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. I think it was cancelled when he saw it. So we're only going to see Bugeisha now, and just a handful of horsemen. Now we do get another horseman queued up, so looking to both raid that and add something to a straight-up fight. Very, very cleverly, Kiljardi is still keeping his Bugeisha away there. He only saw Spearman did MSN as he poked in with those Khan and Torgoods, looking to get as much scouting information as he can. He's really not able to see a lot from what Kiljardi's doing, other than being able to poke the gold and see how many are on there. But the thing is with Kiljardi, he's got a lot on gold, sure, but he's turning that into Onobugeisha, not into an Asia.
Now, Onobugeisha, they're great. They're really, really nice. But if your opponent is ready, and with archers, if MSN is not surprised, he should be able to kite backwards. And with him already standing here at the back of the base, it feels like he's aware. There's a reason we call these the Bugattis, because they run so fast. They're going to get on top of your army and take down anything and everything that dared leave the base. But we do see a double follow-up here with 2 more barracks in queue, and he's just getting more and more Bugashas with a handful of horsemen as a helping. With the food, though, you have to keep in mind, MSN is out on the map. He's snacking out here without much protection, while the thing is, I feel like MSN is still, yeah, he's capitalizing on that early sheep. It's not like he is going to be able to transition once these horses start raining down upon these external resources, because MSN is going to be completely out of food by then.
It actually does feel really rough for Golden Horde if you're not able to either get on the map and secure up those deer or boar, or to be able to get at least a couple of stockyards in by now to have that really efficient food running. So MSN on the berries and soon to run out is a really precarious position, and it's really clever from Kiljardi to be on the map actively with just even a handful of horsemen. 1, to get the information, and 2, to potentially get a little bit of damage or idle time. It's going to set them up really nicely to see exactly what's coming out, as I'm sure both these players at this point, with MSN not pressuring, he must know that there is a lot of army there that's going to stop him from going out too much on the map. And Kiljardi's going to know exactly what MSN has at home, especially economically at this point, to know whether he is in a good position or not. So it's really clever posturing from both players, and a lot different of a game as to what I was expecting coming into this matchup.
When you see Japan, you smell Fast Castle, because we know that they just don't have a response to this, but this is already a collapsed horseman. Not all together here from Kiljardi, so his army being split up, this could be a little bit harder, but the horseman providing that bit of a front line that he needs. Bugashas kind of melting away, but the archers, they are spending their strikes on the horsemen, and the horsemen coming from the back as well. Absolutely devastating here. The spears providing a nice sense of a front line. And as these 2 armies collide, we see the Bugashas going around as well. And this fast army is able to catch up. Archers, they are going to need to play perfectly to get out ahead. But it just feels like Kiljardi's army is so scary with all the upgrades already in there for them. The Keshiks not the Keshiks, the Dorgoods just getting them into a little bit of a choke point, and it looks like the archers will prevail after all. Kiljardi, he lost a significant portion of his army, but he's not ready to give up just yet. Keeps pushing, but the Dorgoods are absorbing so much of this damage, while the real damage is being done by all these archers.
Yeah, fantastic micro from MSN. The thing with Kiljardi's army is that there was just nothing to pick off the spears and Torgoods from a distance. And as long as those spears and Torgoods could stay alive, which they were doing such a good job of, then those archers were able to tee off on the Bugatti and the Spearmen, which meant that it was really a case of that fight going better and better for MSN over time. As long as he didn't lose that spear and Torgood count, which didn't look too scary at all, he was able to maintain the archer count and get so much damage done. And behind that, Kiljardi was going for castle. So turning in that aggression into a castle age meant he was behind on resources and what he could have added to that army. And now MSN is able to take a win, having not invested anywhere near the same amount of money himself into anything other than military, and come across the map. And when he sees this go up, I'm going to expect him to be diving on into what Kiljardi has left.
And Kiljardi, he might have a few towers to protect him, but the problem is those samurai are going to take a while. We do see the first Shinto priest not instantly going towards the stable, which means this is going to take forever to get on out. Now moving in, quickly changing the production speed to 16 seconds per unit, but still, there's so many units. Even when you have one, you're going to need to wait for a handful more, and a handful, they're not coming. You only have 162 gold. You are stuck with 2 mounted samurais and a dream.
Yeah, not being able to secure up enough gold at that time is just going to be a huge detriment for Kiljardi. Now coming out with the 1 mounted samurai that has got out already. He's doing a fantastic job, actually, but the rest of the army is still falling pretty quickly to this huge archer mass, and the Torgoods do such a great job of tanking. The Karash adds that extra armor, which makes them so tanky as well. And it doesn't really matter if there's not a lot of damage that comes out against these mounted samurai. The peppering will eventually take them down. There's even not a lot of fire damage there from the torches, but that's eventually going to take that tower down. And as a result, MSN has got free reign in Kiljardi's base, even though he's castle age, a military count of 36 to 1. And Kiljardi really struggling with gold, buying it now to try to get some units out. But again, going into Onabu Geisha, interestingly enough, as well as that Mounted Samurai, meaning that it's got to be a really tall task to be able to turn any type of damage onto MSN's army. He can stay feudal for a while.
MSN is just going to be able to keep on pushing, find wherever the resources are coming from. And some of these are very vulnerable. The problem is just, of course, he doesn't have God vision. He's not going to know exactly where those villagers are hiding. But some sneaky vills are trying to make their way out here. The problem is that's only 3. And with you investing this much, it doesn't feel like that is the amount you will need. But with the archer numbers, he has a natural counter again, the Honorable Geisha. So it just feels like constant play here from Kiljardi into his own death, as he's just hoping that these the pair of mounted samurai are going to be able to perform miracles. But MSN, he's not looking at going for a rushed age up. He spends every bit of resource he can as the wood is coming in by getting spears, because he realizes, I've gotten a counter to most of his units. Let me just get it for the rest of them as well.
Yeah, even with just Spear Archer, he's got some counter to these units. The biggest thing is, like you mentioned there, just what can he attack? Kiljardi taking a bit of a risk, but a calculated one, to pit a lot of his villagers on the map. The gold in the far left, and of course, chomping up as much of that food as he can up top. Every mounted samurai that he can add is going to be huge, and the Honorable Geisha as well make it a difficult army. I'm not so sure Kiljardi wants to fight just yet, though, just as he sort of has secured up some of those resources. Wants to buy as much time as he can. But MSN's army is huge. There's all these Torgut coming in, which, I mean, they're basically free, aren't they? And then Spearman, Karash, Archer. It's a really scary point for Golden Horde. Even if they don't have a lot of those stone upgrades, they've got a hell of a lot of units and good upgrades behind them. And we'll see now whether he can take the fight or whether those mounted samurai are going to be enough. The archers looking to tee off in all the Honorable Geisha, and even though the veterans, they're killing them so fast, the archers are on the mounted, the spearmen are on the mounted samurai, which is a great job from MSN. And those Torguts are taking up a lot. Actually, those mounted samurai are really not doing much damage at all, and he cleans up the entire army again. That was really Kiljardi's chance to bring anything out of this situation. And now MSN's got free reign of the base, and we could be seeing GG any minute.
MSN definitely reading every part of this game just right, putting that pressure up non-stop. And the Daimo Manor, it might be producing villagers, but they are just produced to quickly die shortly after. Now, the DC fire is going to help, but you're going to need a lot more help. Oh, he says the villagers are the help here, and he fights back, but every villager falls like a fly. And the TC firing away at the archers, but he needs a lot more. Kiljardi, not ready to back off, has a few more Honorable Geishas in queue, and he says if it doesn't work, it will work eventually. Now, with yet another one coming out, but quickly getting damaged to so low already, he has one last hurrah in him, and he's gonna try to make this work, but with 0 villagers on food, this is tragic. We see the berries are running out here at the back too. Mounted samurai at the front trying to perform miracles, but the spearman numbers are just too supreme here from MSN, and he takes game number 3.
What a lovely game. I mean, really well played by MSN to, first of all, manage that Dark Age situation, which was certainly not in his favor. And then be able to make the right calls in Feudal Age. We were really unsure whether Kiljardi's Honorable Geisha Gambit was going to pay off, or whether it was something that MSN was going to see, or whether he could react to. And for whether he saw it early or not, he did keep that archer count really high. And when it came down to that ultimate battle, we can see there on the military count right there before Kiljardi's Castle Age, he was able to take such a huge fight, just constantly microing back and killing Geisha after Geisha and not taking any damage at all. And then behind that, Kiljardi ticked up to Castle Age. In that case, it was just a matter of MSN to close out the game, which he did a really fantastic job of. So amazing game, 2-1, and we're ready for game 4. I'm loving this series. We knew it was going to be a good one. These two, the oldest versus the youngest, the battle of styles. And we are getting a treat so far.
Now, Kiljardi, I am so surprised in the decisions that he had made with those honorable geishas. At some point, when he went into the samurais, I could see this working. I could see how that archer mass was just going to be completely overwhelmed by having to micro and deal with the honorable geishas that are in between that mix. But stopping that production and just going for the clear honorable geishas, that was pretty brave of him. But we do have our next matchup, guys, and we see Macedonians sniped out yet again. Macedonians will not see the light of day. Oof. Malians neither. But Delhi and JD, and honestly, this might be the matchup that Kiljardi has in his pocket. We know that JD does pretty well against Delhi, purely because of the knight supremacy and being able to shut down that feudal aggression that Delhi loves to do.
Yeah, this matchup has changed a lot over the years and the iterations, I guess, of the meta. Delhi used to have a really good feel in this matchup, or thinking against French or French JD kind of being very similar. But we've seen the sort of power of both French and JD in this matchup be a little bit more in their favor. I'm not ready to count this one out yet for MSN on the Delhi. I think it's a really good civ of his, and I think he showed us some awesome play so far. Will be interesting to see if there's anything from Kiljardi that he sort of throws in that's a little bit wild, as we've seen a few things from him so far in both, especially that House of Lancaster game, and then also even with Japanese. So very interested to see if he's got something in store for us with Jean d'Arc, or whether we're just going to see a hell of a lot of knights. Alrighty, getting straight into it on Gorge. So on the bottom of our screen in the orange, we have Kiljardi on Jean d'Arc. And in the top right of our screen on the Delhi Sultanate, it is in the blue MSN. And nothing too crazy to start with. And we guess we'll take place into what's going to go on with the sheep. But maybe we don't worry about sheep too much as JD going out to get those deer, as we have seen quite a lot more in fashion these days for the likes of French, Order of the Dragon, and of course, Jean d'Arc.
What's really surprising to me is that in every game we've had so far, I flipped them around again, sorry boys. In every game we've seen so far, it feels like both of the scouts are going upwards. Neither of them are slowing down, going bottom. It's been every single game, everyone upwards. And we've had a crash on Gorge so far every time. So I really hope that the gods are watching down upon us and making sure that there are no crashes happening for this one. But we can see these two faces, like father or like grandpa and like son, just fighting it out all the way there from Scandinavia for that honor of playing against Puppy Paw.
Yeah, not the reward anyone probably wants, but one that you understand that you're going to need to beat if you want to qualify and compete against the rest of this top 8 in Serbia. So you've got to earn it one way or the other, whether Wham and Puppy Paw were playing or not. And in this case, yeah, it's not made easier. But neither of these players are going to be thinking about anything else other than the rest of this set. For MSN, he's 2-1 up already. Match point. If he is able to take out this game against Kiljardi, he will go on to that next match. But Kiljardi will feel plenty fine, plenty confident to come in this matchup with JD. And I think particularly will be, even after those last couple games, feel fine that he's still plenty in this.
And I like this with going out on the deer and not touching the sheep. That feels great. And of course, a few of them are touching. Now, you have to keep in mind, with JD, this is the limiting factor. And Delhi is so good at shutting down any civilization that tries to go out on the map for food. But at the same time, they're the civilization that will go out on the map for food. So Delhi very often, when they have the map control, just moving out, feeling very confident about this. The problem is, when you are playing against someone like the JD or the French, you know that you're not going to be in control all the time. So the sheep numbers here matter. And of course, ooh, a lot of black sheep in this mix. one little white one, bringing a little bit of diversity into this group. And it looks like this is going to be a feast for a lot of villagers to come. Now, of course, with Ghazi Raiders, they do extra damage to the knights, but it is still an uphill battle for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the extra damage sometimes you feel with Ghazi, you don't even really feel it up into French knights in particular. But when you do get a mass, especially with that Ghazi Spearman combo against any Feudal Knight Civ, but especially the likes of a French or a JD that just want to mass as many of them as possible, it can feel really strong. Those fights can turn really quickly with the damage that both the Spearman and Ghazi do, rather than just relying on Spearman for DPS. But one of the things that's made a little bit more interesting with Jeanne d'Arc in particular is, of course, her influence on the battle, whether it is the melee version or the ranged version, can deal with the Spearman a lot better than any other unit. And in this case, we will need to see at some point MSN on the Delhi need to go out onto the map for food, like you mentioned, which means that at some point he's going to need to open himself up for the potential to get raided.
Now, with the Ghazi Raider opening, this is something a lot more standard we see. But we've had a few delis that decided, hey, we're going to open with the barracks. Now, that would be a perfectly good answer. The problem is, you want to get the mobility up, you want to shut down whatever this is, but you don't have an answer to that initial knight. So it is something that he's going to need to invest in pretty quickly, and that's usually where the knights make this a lot harder of a lifestyle for anyone.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit of a micro battle, doesn't it? The Ghazi being faster than the knights, meaning if you can get across the map and force them to, it's not a great start, getting 2 shots, including the charge on the Ghazi. Losing that much health doesn't feel great. But if you can get away from the knights, it does mean you can pressure, even in a sort of horseman or pseudo-horseman versus knight battle, pressure the economy if you can get them on that side of the map. But if the knights do come across onto MSN side, it does make things very, very dangerous. Now, we saw the tick up from JD there already, going for the Woman at Arms version, the melee version, which is probably in anticipation of MSN not making a hell of a lot of archers.
Now, with MSN, getting the Ghazi numbers out a little bit quicker, of course they're cheaper, you also have a scholar inside. I'm trying to keep an eye on these knights to find out exactly where they plan on hitting, but this is a little bit of a slippery slope, because of course if the Ghazi numbers start becoming overwhelming, things can spiral out of control quickly. And, ooh, a beautiful charge coming in, and the second one also trying to get a charge in, but there will be another Ghazi to intercept if needed. And soon enough, these Ghazis will just go home and heal up. And that's the beauty of Delhi. You get to take these trades, you just need to make sure that you've got the scholars in position to do something about it. And it does look like the frontline Ghazis are ready to take a punch and just move on back as needed. But one of these Ghazis, again, getting very low. But you see the scholars, it's standing back there like a hospital and ensuring everyone gets back to the fight with 100% HP.
Yeah, I think MSN will welcome the micro war. I think he will back himself to be able to out micro and outplay in these small skirmishes, bring in the scholars when needed, bringing back weak units to heal when needed. And we can see him now also adding in the spearmen, which will make those straight up fights a little bit different than they've been so far. But credit where it's due so far, Kiljardi has been the one that's found the damage. Those charges into just single hit do so much damage on those Ghazi. Have really forced MSN back onto his side of the map, which means those villages out on the dare that you were highlighting earlier are free to go for as much as they want. But Kiljardi does still do the safe thing and get himself a tower, which is perhaps maybe in MSN's favor, or getting the brace onto one. Unfortunately, yeah, a little bit of a micro slip up, not pulling back or cancelling the charge to bait the brace there. One of the knights unfortunately gets caught, and it's a good little pickup early on for MSN.
Now, that pickup is going to allow him a bit more breathing room, but the food is going to start running low. Let's switch vision and see how much he still has. Oh, never mind. I did not realize that all of the sheep was still very happily standing on them. No, he's got time. He's got time. He's got Ghazis, and now he's got spears in the mix too. And we do not have an archery range follow-up. We have a barracks follow-up, and this makes sense. You're playing against a man with less superior horses, but spears. So you don't want to sit there and micro, because horsemen, or Ghazis in this case, is going to handle them perfectly fine anyway. Now, JD, she's standing in position to take this fight if ever so needed, but more knights in queue, and Kiljardi, adding in his own little blacksmith, is going to try to find an answer to this ever-pressing Ghazi presence. Ooh, but the knights, they're getting a little bit of a charge in, but he does need to be careful not to overcommit here. He tries to get that villager, but he'll pay the price of a knight. The scout is taking the arrow fire, and the knight gets out. Alive, but very much scathed.
Yeah, that's a rough one for Kiljardi, and the problem with JD compared to French is you don't have that automatic +1 attack damage from the blacksmith, so not quite getting that 2-shot onto that villager. It does survive. And yeah, the scout going down and the knight almost dead too. Now, I gotta say, I'm a personal absolute hater of French or JD ever making a barracks. So that feels like a moral loss for Kiljardi, at least in my eyes. But like you said, perhaps understandable in this situation. The thing here, we talked a lot about food for the Delhi. Delhi has now got in their Pro Scouts upgrade. Obviously, it takes a while, but you do get there eventually. And MSN has now got 5 scouts on the run, bringing those back, which if he is successful getting these 2 deer packs back, that is a lot of safe food on top of those sheep you highlighted before, which means that MSN is actually going to be in a pretty good position in the Extended Feudal Age.
Extended Feudal for Delhi usually feels so good. You get all your upgrades all for free. You just get to spend them on units. But Extended Feudal might not be the play here. The man, 9 on gold. This is usually not the number we see out of the Delhi Sultanate. You see something very different, but MSN says, I'm going castle, and going, I would say, medium castle against the French, that is usually a very, very risky move. He's got the spears at home to defend against that first knight push the moment he hits that age up, but he has to be careful. And MSN, he's trying to be on the opposite side of the map to ensure that Kiljardi has to respond to him. He might even get a little villager pickup as this villager, never mind. Kiljardi is fast as can be and quickly responds to this, but the eco upgrades now coming in for Kiljardi is gonna make it quite nice for him to stay here a bit longer. House of Learning though, it's gonna come in and it's gonna take a while to get those upgrades in anyway.
Yeah, if your trade is eco upgrades versus Castle Age, I think you're going to prefer to be in MSN's position, and he's done a great job to sort of take some decent trades, know that he's not too worried about Kiljardi's army, and be able to find the time to go up to Castle. With Kiljardi going into Spears as well, it does kind of mean that the ability to then see that castle and make the dive on the eco at that timing is kind of lost. So it's going to mean he's got a better defense at home with those spearmen. But against the Delhi, it's maybe not quite the same as when you're against civs that might be pumping out the lancers, because of course Delhi have those huge friendly elephants.
Yeah, war elephants just hit so differently, and this is what a lot of Delhis are falling back on, Ben. They love getting that one little elephant in the mix, and then things get a lot harder. But I say that, the age up has hit, and no elephant is in queue. He's purely focused on getting the attention of his opponent, but going for crossbows, that is the first response he goes for. But with all these spears, the knights just cannot charge in all for free.
Yeah, I mean, spear crossbow is maybe a bit more responsible. We'll still see an elephant at some point. We'll get there. But Emerson may be playing a safer game, or perhaps a smarter game than both of us are hoping for. But Kiljardi on JD is definitely seeing the Castle Age, maybe caught a little bit by surprise by it. I'm not so sure, but trying to get some value, picking up a scout or two is something, but not a hell of a lot of damage behind it. And then it looks like for MSN, those upgrades, they do take a while, of course, for the Delhi, but he's holding on pretty well for those to come in. The good thing for Kiljardi, though, is he has managed to push those Ghazi back. There is no more delaying from MSN. Kiljardi is very much knocking on the door, and I would expect, as we'll see his macro change, and we'll see Kiljardi look to go up to castle behind us as well.
Now, the problem here for MSN is he still doesn't have a clear answer to these units in his base. And sure, there are spears and a handful of crossbows, but JD, she is not going to care. The knights charge in, and we do see a little bit of an interception going around. JD standing there at the front line, taking a lot of fire, but the knights seem to be pretty confident about this. Heals up, and JD will go down, but she definitely got her value already. Now, he has to be careful not to get any conversions here, but we do see the relics. They are on the side of MSN. 4 villagers went down, and JD, she's not coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, it does have the money to buy her back and still gets a castle, and there was a lot of experience gain there. Yeah, it does buy it back now. But yeah, it's got a lot of money in the bank, but not quite the cleanest castle, but he will be there very soon. MSN now really stabilizing. As that crossbow count grows, it does mean that those knights are either going to be 2-shot or soon enough 1-shot, which will make a big difference to MSN's ability to get out of his base. Kiljardi still looking to find a bit of either harassment or even just poking for the vision behind this. But it does look a little bit wild when you look up at the screen and see Delhi getting all these upgrades coming in, whereas poor JD is still trying to get out on the map and then getting up to castle quite a bit later than Delhi already has.
Now, the guild hall tells us Kiljardi is not minding a late game. Even with 15 knights, you would not be too upset the man for going for a Royal Institute. But he goes the responsible landmark, and it makes sense. You don't know if you have the ability to kill your opponent, and he's not queuing up any of the current units he has. So I'm smelling something suspicious here. Are we getting a little bit of a unit switch already? Ooh, we're getting orbs.
Arbs would be fantastic. I think a big problem still that Kiljardi faces is just that food eco. The boar will help, and I'm not sure when he went out on that. Oh, is he going to get this? Is it going to be delete? Oh, he gets away. I think he might have just gone out on that second dare pack as well, so it might still be plenty to go for. Yeah, okay, there's still plenty there, not a problem, but it is a little bit of a delay there, but the Arbs will make a big difference. Remember that Arbs have the Pavis shields, which help defend against the ranged attacks. So in a crossbow versus crossbow fight, they can actually do a lot better than the normal ones. In the meantime, on the picture-in-picture, we do see the knights coming in and doing a lot of damage. Up to 9 Vil kills now for Kiljardi is really not so bad.
Kiljardi got his value from that little knight raid, and the ARB numbers are slowly but steadily going to join. Now, the problem is there's only 2, and there's a lot of crossbows on the side to him. So MSN does have a bit of an opening here with 3 times the military. Now, of course, those are just numbers, and looking at the value, you do see it's just double. So it's still pretty scary. But the longer this goes, the better for Kiljardi now. JD is already providing quite a bit of a discount on all of these military units. As we can see, 105 food per night. That doesn't feel too bad. But Delhi, now we have the big question mark of food. Where are we going next, especially with knights running everywhere?
Yeah, it's finally happening, and now with MSN having to be on those berries in the front, it's a limited source, and yeah, we see the first of the farms coming in. So this is a bit of a window for Kiljardi to catch up, and a Knight Arb Spearman combination is not so bad. And behind this, Jean d'Arc herself is very, very close to level 3, which is quite a power spike for JD generally, but especially as that melee version, that huge AoE can do a lot of damage if she can get into the fight and survive. But the thing is, against 30, soon to be 35 crossbows, she may not last long in these fights. But Kiljardi doing a great job on the backside of this to just keep coming into that wood line, being really relentless. So if he's not getting a lot of build kills, which he's still getting some, he's getting a lot of idle time. It's a long way to go between TC and woodline.
Every single time those night raids come in, you see Kiljardi losing a few units here on the front though, but this happens both ways, of course. You are pulling your attention in different directions, and now the Sacred Side timer is started. And even though this might not be the ultimate win condition here, it's adding to it. The night numbers getting scarily low now, with Orbs being the main composition. And JD, she's close to getting there, but she's been taking a while. Now, with MSN's crossbow numbers, I would not be surprised to see a few of John's champions, but at the same time, we know she is just perfectly fine getting a few of those melee units, but let's go see what she... Oh, no, she's going for the... Oh, I meant the riders. The horses are just such a good answer to dealing with the crossbowmen, because they are light melee. They're not going to be susceptible to any of your crossbow shenanigans.
Well, not only that, but they do get bonus damage to crossbows specifically. So those John's Riders do a fantastic job into them. Plus, when you get them, you can make them out of your stables as well. So it's a huge sort of swing that we don't see very often from JD to be in this position, but one that could make fights really, really interesting with a lot of ARBs and John's Riders rather than Knights. Which would be very interesting to see in a straight-up fight, as I'm not sure I've really seen it outside of team games. But actually in queue at the moment, Kiljardi's just got regular horsemen, which will be there to deal with the crossbows. The John's Riders are very expensive, is the one thing about them, but I do hope we see a lot more of them as well.
Now, as this push is happening at the front, Kiljardi is still thinking about raiding, but he could get a bunch of kills, sure, but at what cost? The cost could just be the whole base, but gets a wall of law in there at the back and the nice charge in, but they do move out just in time while MSN's fully focused there at the back. He might be losing focus here at the front, and this is exactly where the horses are going to start to make a difference. But we do see that raid at the back doing all the work. And quickly now the ARB's going to be getting their value. Wall of Laws stacking up on every single side, but no conversions coming through. And the Knights, they just keep getting kills. He might have 5 relics, but 10 villages went down. And this front fight is not looking to go MSN's way completely.
No, it's wild looking at the military count that we have in this game, but then seeing Kiljardi find little wins here and there. And credit to him, he's doing a really good job of getting onto that wood line time and time again. And it's a case for MSN that he's just not been able to secure up anything, whether that be walls or units, static D, whatever it is, just not being able to keep Kiljardi off of his wood line. Meanwhile, he's countering that with his own raids, with his Ghazi going out on the map. But again, also that fight down the middle, sort of going in the favor of those ARBs. Yeah, not a natural counter to crossbows or spearmen. In fact, you'd think archers would be the natural counter to those two units. But they still are doing an immense work to deal with that, even with no knights or John's Riders really around in the fight. In fact, with them diving in right on the army, it's probably better if they're not there. JD going down almost instantly along with the rest of her cavalry. Maybe let's let the ARBs do the work for Kiljardi. That was rough.
Now, this is not necessarily a great spot to be in here, because of course JD just went down, but she got a little bit of experience. You have the guild hall ticking, and MSN, he is leading units, because of course, even though we've been talking about the army difference, a lot of them are still in scholars. And with him looking like he wanted to commit there for a moment, I'm a little surprised he did not have his scholars in that push. Because if you're looking for that little bit of a death push forward, you can't just rely on your peer mass in military. You might need to bring the Healy boys at the front as well. Now, the horses, again, just going to that wood line. And you see time and time again, nobody's walling, everybody's getting raided, and just letting it happen.
You actually touched on something there, Whamen, which I didn't think about until now, but the even more genius of the ARBs is that MSN can't go into men-at-arms, lancers, war elephants, because Kiljardi already has the counter. So if his ARBs are doing this well against spear, crossbow, Ghazi, MSN has a tough time finding a unit composition that can fight with these or fight against these. Plus the skulls, although they are fantastic in fights, against these sort of low health, more trash units, they don't deal as well as if they were healing lancers or healing war elephants. So even smarter play from Kiljardi than I was giving him credit for, and especially with the deficit that he's been at for a while in this game and the way he's being able to stay in it. I've been actually, incredibly impressed to see what he's being able to do to turn around, and this ARB army is really, really scary.
And with the gold running out, this is MSN's cue to, hey, I need to move out. And moving out is going to be risky because, of course, we've been seeing Kiljardi everywhere all the time. But now we see something even scarier. We see a pending Imperial coming on out. And this scout probably right-clicked onto some deer at the back there. But MSN, he's pushing forward, and he might need to find the damage pretty quickly, because that age up is going to come in fast. And once he gets it, that's a whole part of the map that is going to be untouchable. Now, of course, he's already been here on the big gold, so I'm actually quite interested to see what he will do with that red palace. Now, you want to secure as much of your base with it usually, but oh, he doesn't go too aggressive. He just wants to save that extra gold vein, and now this provides a pretty safe area for his farm transition in the later stages as well.
It does. The thing that's a little bit precarious for Kiljardi is oftentimes when you're going for Imperial, you want to have the farm transition set up first so that you're going to be safe once you do get to Imperial. I'm not sure what the farm count is for Kiljardi, but it could be a little bit dicey. They're starting to come in now. So this is the timing, especially if he can deny the Red Palace, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. There's another keep on the backside at the same time. So MSN doing a great job to sort of latch onto this opportunity and find some damage. Coming down the front as well. He knows this is a time that he's really got to make some damage. Coming right through the guts of the base is probably not the most ideal, especially with that red pellets going up. These are firing off crossbow shots, bolts, rather than just a normal arrow. So these things go down so fast, but Emerson doesn't have a choice. He's got to come through and do some damage. He's got all of his army here, and now Kiljardi's got his army coming in here too. Not upgraded yet with the castle edge, but he understands he's got to take a fight, and he's got these arbs that are going to take a straight up fight in the middle. Remember, they do have the extra melee armor, so he can stand a fight as best as he can, and with both TCs still firing so much DPS coming out of Kiljardi's army and buildings, as long as he can hold here and stop the army, he could be just fine. JD getting plenty of experience during this fight as well, and now MSN running away to the bottom of Kiljardi's base, but there's really no economy here. They're just waiting. Oh, JD coming in as well, ready to fling that sword in circles and get a lot of damage and a lot of experience. Oh, this is incredibly rough for MSN, not getting much done with this push at all.
Now, MSN felt that sense of urgency when he dove in under, but when he saw that second TC, he knew, I need to do the work and I need to do it now. Because from his perspective, he doesn't know how long it's been up. He doesn't realize, hey, that thing just came up. He thinks he's so much further behind than he actually was. So committing to all of this, thinking that he needed to get the damage done now, maybe that felt like his only option. But behind this, he's going to Imperial Age himself. And with 5 relics, it doesn't feel too bad. But the problem is, he doesn't have an army to defend himself when that push inevitably comes. And now, that push is going to come with a few of these Imperial Age units, as we see the elite obs now going to get their upgrades.
It's a really scary army. It's JD plus 30 arbs. It's not your typical army that you see from Shontak, especially in Imperial Age, but it is a really scary one. And the thing is, with that Red Palace, we're talking about all the damage that these guys have been doing with the raids and getting in behind and all the idle time. But the Red Palace makes that so much tougher, even if Kiljardi doesn't have the whole map walled off. This is a nice little poke, though, going in between the base and the Red Palace, and there's plenty of vills for him to get some damage onto, but the army is there in position, and MSN ticks up to Imperial Age himself. With this many scholars, he will be able to get these upgrades in quickly and for free, which is going to be an advantage for him if he can hold on that little bit. And the thing about having this big Arb army compared to the Royal Knights you might be used to seeing is that they aren't going to be as much of a presence on the other side of the map. So great job from MSN to use those Ghazi, even though he lost them, to give himself that time. And we can see there that he is the one that's got the immaculate farm transition at this point. So it's still very much anyone's game.
MSN does have quite a bit of an opening to breathe here, I would say. The problem is just once this army starts pushing out, I think he's going to need to find a way to take some favorable trades. And with the units he has right now, there just might not be a way to do so. Now, Kiljardi is currently setting up his farms, and he's had a handful, but with MSN's already being set up for such a long time, we can really see the value stacking up for MSN. At almost 2,000 food per minute, he is going to be cranking out units quickly. The problem might be these external resources. So we do still have a little bit of wood out here, but the army from Kiljardi, it is just impending. It feels like it's going to make its move any second now, but at the same time, it just doesn't seem to be the case. Kiljardi is playing this very slow, very carefully, even though he's got that huge army of ARBs. Now, of course, he doesn't know exactly what MSN has. He doesn't realize what the whole situation is out here. But I love this from MSN. Getting that keep here too, it just puts him in a very good spot.
Yeah, it's going to help him from an economic position as well with the extra villages he can produce from it. I assume that upgrade is coming by now. But the other thing as well is, even though MSN is not able to collect any gold on the map, he does have all of those relics, and he is Delhi, so he doesn't need any of that gold for upgrades. And he's against Mass Arb, which means he needs to make a lot of Ghazi, which don't cost gold themselves. So it's not the worst position economically for him to be in. And with all of that, food is in a good place too. Although we do see now Kiljardi's food has really skyrocketed recently. So he's feeling okay from that perspective as well. But the other thing that's on MSN's side, of course, with that Imperial Age going with the Palace of the Sultan, has those hand cannon elephants coming out for free as well. Everything just comes for free. Which will mean that those scholars will be extra useful in the fights as well, with that sort of interesting Ghazi crossbowman hand cannon elephant composition.
Now the Ghazis are looking for a bit of damage. Now they've been told and warned by the others that there's a TC that fires really hard. They don't care. And Kiljardi is still with his Guildhall on food. He might be walking into a little bit of a limitation with some resources as time goes on, but MSN, he is getting raided, and with this he doesn't have those spicy TCs to respond, but he does have the elephants and more Ghazi raiders to respond to as well. Now with the Ghazis, they are getting a little bit of work done, but of course he has to be careful here. He can't just bleed too many of them, but like we said before, he saw that second TC. He knows he needs to get a little bit of work done, and that pressure is on him the whole time. The problem for Kiljardi right now is this army. It's just growing. MSN is very steadily at 200 supply, and he's not breaking a sweat at keeping it there.
No, MSN's really boomed, and behind that he's getting the stone for keeps to try to secure up his economy. We can see those walls on the map. They're not all up yet, but once he does have that up, that's going to be a great way for him to kind of survive. Again, not really needing to go out on the map so much for gold, but it looks like he has secured that one on the far right side of the map anyway. And we've got to a point in this game where it really felt like MSN had no army composition that he could have or could make work for himself against Kiljardi's, but it's more and more looking like that's less so of the case in the Imperial Age, as those Ghazi Raiders are doing a much better job against, of course, the crossbowmen, but we saw them do a great job against those John Riders as well. And I think even now, having a look at Kiljardi's production, I think he's even stopped making those John's Riders, so looking for a mass infantry composition from our Jean d'Arc.
Now JD is getting dangerously close to level 6, but level 4, but she still doesn't really get an answer to all of this. And all of a sudden, MSN in the late game, it looks exactly what Delhi was supposed to be. Elephants at the back, and a bunch of units to protect them at that. And now, with biology coming in, these elephants are going to take forever to die. Now, the cavalry here, as we see, 750 HP. Let's see how that one jumps in a few moments. And that is going to be the reality of the life. 900. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's really rough, regardless of how many ARBs you have. And I think Kiljardi maybe wasn't so sure of how many crossbowmen there were. This is a lovely pickup from MSN to surround and get those 5 villages. Not game-changing damage, but anything that he can get on the gold is going to be of great value for him, as that is the thing that is going to probably be most damning when Kiljardi runs out of it. But yeah, the crossbowman of MSN does mean that Kiljardi does need to continue making those Jean's Riders, which are really expensive, and they do need to get on to the crossbowman to get their value, which has been the toughest thing for Kiljardi to be able to achieve. And MSN doing a great job running all of these Ghazi through, although if he gets close to any of these emplacements, which is shooting these bolts, the Red Palace is insane, then even though they are horsemen with high ranged armor, they are going to go down very quickly nonetheless. And it does seem like we are sort of edging ourselves towards splitting the map. This almost feels like an old school or a StarCraft 2 game where both sides get to the late game and then look to split the map, which is not something I'm used to seeing too much of, especially in a JD versus Delhi matchup.
JD and Delhi, they do tend to get to the late game if Delhi doesn't get shut down. And MSN is showing us he's not looking at getting shut down whatsoever. But we have to ask ourselves, how long is Kiljardi going to keep this up? This is a 5 relic Delhi who is very much just stocking it up with elephant or with these wonderful tower elephants as well. This is not something that he can afford to contest, as he's getting a handful of his own upgrades. The problem is just Delhi has so many resources. He loses this army, he can't replace it. MSN loses this army, he's just gonna remake it.
Yeah, that's a huge bank that's building. And speaking of banks, I mean, we talked about the gold being a bit of a problem potentially for Kiljardi. His guild hall is still on food, which is probably not what he's going to want the longer this game goes. So I wonder if that's something that he'll pay attention to. It is a very difficult thing to try to think of in the heat of the moment. We see the ARBs fighting the crossbows, which is going to be in the benefit of Kiljardi. Now MSN seeing it and maybe looking to get back on the tower elephants popping forward. That's probably not what I want to see, but you can see that 900 health coming in effect. Those elephants are not heavy, so they're not taking all that extra damage from the ARBs, and I think MSN may be seeing that and being like, oh, maybe I can fight this after all. Actually, we just saw the guild hall switch to gold. Kiljardi is absolutely onto it, and with JD being level 4 and the guild hall on gold, well, we're still anybody's game, aren't we?
And the big gold here from MSN, he's got full access to this. That's still 5k gold in the bank. And he's not under pressure of getting shut down at all. Kiljardi, he is probably going to make his way out here to the bottom, but it just doesn't feel like he's in that same spot. Now, switching to a majority of elite spearmen. And elite spearmen, while they usually do pretty decent against the crossbows, it doesn't feel like this is something MSN is worried about. He's using his micro very, very well, making sure that he takes the trades when they're favorable for him. Look at these elephants, just walking forward, deleting anything on the front line. But the spears, they're ready for the engagement, and they're going right under these elephants. Elephants overextending a lot, and I think I just cursed poor man, as some of these very irreplaceable elephants will be going down. And now, the spears are just moving forward with ease. Another elephant paying the price, and one by one, MSN, he's losing these very, very useful units that he's not going to be able to remake in time. The cannon, though, firing away, trying to do a little bit of an easier job for these elephant cleanups. But finally, the scholars get pulled, and the scholars are praying to produce miracles. Market getting destroyed quickly as he needs to. Oh, never mind, that was JD. But the elephants are just reigning supreme still, and it looks like war elephants were the answer after all. But these are heavy, so if he fires at them, he might just be okay. Doesn't want to take any risks. JD has to pull back and doesn't want to fight this under his DC.
Something we saw there from MSN I think is really clever is, although I'm sure he wanted to take his best fight as possible, it was the case that he queued up out of multiple production buildings. Oh, and JD goes down. Multiple production buildings, a bunch of elephants. Cutting all different units and just going, I'm going to make a whole bunch of elephants, so when I lose my army in this fight outside my base, my elephants are going to come out and going to be straight into the fray to clean up the fight with the reinforcements. And it's exactly that. We see how many war and tower elephants are there. Before that, it was just the Sultan's tower elephants. So really, really clever heads-up play from MSN to know, oh, actually, this fight's going to be in 2 stages. I don't need to win the first one. In fact, some of these units are useless to me. I want better ones. So really, really good way to make the use of his bank. And this is going to be a telling push to see if he can turn that military superiority and that economically into just steamrolling Kiljardi's army as a result. You can see his production popping up with the spears, John Riders, and the ARBs. But this is a case of MSN coming out with a really, really strong army composition of just elephants. I mean, this is what we wanted to see earlier, and he turned it around in the middle of a huge fight. I've not seen that too often, and I'm blown away.
I'm a fan. MSN, He may be the stealer of milkshakes, but he's the stealer of hearts in this game. And the villagers popping out, trying to repair this quickly because this is providing so much value against this fight. And you see him trying to target this elephant, but that range damage, it is barely taking a hit. Villagers preparing this at the speed of light as much as they can, but we can see the keep just firing away at the vills that are very much overextended. It's starting to add up. The military just not replaceable here. Kiljardi holding on to a dream, but he's not ready to tap out. He's going to keep this fight going, and MSN is going to have to work for it.
Yes, we've learned from this series that if Kiljardi's got even the semblance of a chance, or he feels that he has one, he's going to hold on and see if he can make something work. That's never been more true than this game, as of course, if MSN does win, he will be advancing to the next round, and unfortunately Kiljardi's hopes will end there. In this case, MSN feeling like he's got his foot on the throat of Kiljardi, bringing up a castle drop to start with. And then these elephants are going to be let loose. I really can't get over. I would love to see. I'm going to go back later and watch that replay to see just exactly MSN taking that fight, as he knew exactly what he wanted it, or how he wanted it to go with those elephant reinforcements, and it's really paid dividends. It's not just a battle of attrition. It was a battle of, let's take this engagement, and then I'm going to destroy you in the follow-up.
Now, the spear remassing here at the back, you can see Kiljardi is trying to use every bit of resource he has to try and survive against this. But these elephants are going to delete his main TC, as I see them just stomping forward, doing a little bit of side damage to the farms here with that AoE, and it just looks like this TC is made of paper. MSN feeling a lot more confident in actually moving that keep forward. JD back fighting, and a cannon really hoping to try and solo this army.
Yeah, it's tough when at this point you're relying on cannons to deal with the elephants. Of course, they do very well against them in smaller numbers, or when you have a few more cannons, but at this point MSN is just, he remaxed on elephants, which is not something that you're used to seeing, but he's done a great job to be able to find a way to do that with his eco. He's got 14 more in queue. Is surreal, and nails will be coming across the map. I wouldn't be surprised to see him make production outside of Kiljardi's base as well as that keep. But this, even with the Red Palace teeing off, and this army that Kiljardi still has, it's just such a tall order to actually kill this army and stop it just being able to continue to slowly walk through Kiljardi's base.
And you can see he's trying to get as many cannons as possible, because this is the range advantage he needs to actually take down these elephants. And he knows the tower elephants are the problem here. The ranged cavalry, they are not dying to anything except for these cannon shots. So trying to cut his way backwards. But the problem is 3 cannons are just not the answer. He needs so many more to actually handle this. JD, she may be getting experience, but it means nothing. And now as he's pushing forward, ooh, we see more scholars joining the fight. He wants to make sure that this is the final one. Now, with the cannon numbers at 4, he is going to start to be able to get them at least to a half HP with every shot, but the scholars are going to try to keep them alive. Now, we do see a little bit of focus there on the front elephants. He just needs to pick them off one by one. But the problem is, even if he does, more are on the way. And a little bit of a switch into Ghazi Raiders is going to make this even more difficult.
Yeah, Kiljardi doing his best here to actually hold on, and we do see some elephants falling even with the scholars healing away. And it looks like Kiljardi actually wants to pounce, or just to get a couple of kills there, but a better fight than I might have expected. He did a really good job to get a cannon count up. 4 cannons there that he's managed to keep alive and continue to do damage against these elephants makes it tough. But MSN maybe just taking a little bit of a breather, regrouping. He knows he's consistently maxed. Although the one thing with this this composition compared to what he was doing before is he does need that gold. He can't just rely on the relics anymore. So that is the one thing that's a little bit of a bottleneck. Now turning his way to the guild hall, that's going to be a nice little win. And of course, Kiljardi does pull from that. So has that gold eco for now, or that gold bank, but he's not going to have any more now. And presumably for the rest of the game, And this is just a position for MSN to hold on to, and then eventually we will see them continue to butt heads as he looks to push across the map to try to finish this off. But it's Kiljardi is not making it easy for him.
Now, with no extra TC, there's no more villagers coming out. This is all Kiljardi has in terms of, in terms of the mass of villagers behind it. And this just means whenever these die, they're not going to be able to replace them. We are now getting yet another cannon, but the problem is there's no more wood, there's no more siege that will come out of this too easily. And with the switch into hand cannoneers, I'm loving that. The problem is, a lot of this, they don't really care about hand cannoneers, and yes, you might be getting that keep, but the problem, there's a front line that's heading straight towards you, and you don't have anything to stop them. He pulls back, trying to get to safety, but the cannons, they're not that fast. The elephants, very much so, and just going straight for the kill.
Yeah, Kiljardi, he spent all the money, he's got no gold left, nothing else. He knows it's make or break. He has to win a big fight or he's going to be out of this game, out of this series, and out of the tournament. The extra cannon that's now coming in, although I think it's walking towards the front line, unfortunately. Both armies clashing. We do see elephants going down a hell of a lot of healing, getting everybody up. JD pops her healing. She stays alive, which is going to be a huge impact for Kiljardi. But there is a lot of elephants here, a lot of Ghazi, a lot of units. And it just does look like, even with those hand cannons base damage teeing off, there's just these elephants are dying so slow. The scholars are healing through it and is pushing back. We see the bombards or the cannons look to slowly move away, but there's still so many elephants. And they might move slowly, but they'll keep on moving as they track the rest of Kiljardi's army down. And I think this one might be all she wrote, unfortunately, for our legend Kiljardi.
Those elephants just making their way through absolutely everything. We don't care about farms, we don't care about anything. We just want to get those cannons, and Kiljardi realizes this is it for me and has to back off and to, give up his dreams of qualifying for the Homestead Cup.
It's a tough one. I think it was a really, really good series from Kiljardi and also a very fun one. Selfishly, as a viewer's perspective, he pulled out some really interesting strategies, some different things, trying to catch MSN off guard, which I really, really have a lot of time for. So fantastic show at the very least for Kiljardi. I know he'll be disappointed to lose to MSN in this one, but all the credit has to go to the kid himself. 3 games to 1. Looking really comfortable in a lot of these. It was just the water map that Kiljardi was able to sort of get ahead of him and close him out. But other than that, MSN did such an amazing job of reading the situation from Kiljardi, and even with those surprise strategies, those different things that it might be a little bit non-meta that Kiljardi was pulling out, MSN had an answer to, which goes to show his knowledge of the game, and of course we saw his ability to execute as well. So fantastic win for MSN, and I'm super excited to see him progress to the next round.
Now, we are going to be heading into our next games pretty soon, but guys, let's take a quick break and we will be right back to see what happens in the semifinals and who makes it through to that winner bracket final, where the first person will make it through in the first game tomorrow. So, let's see you guys back here in 3 to 5 minutes while we set it up for your next surprise.